as proof of the unimaginable possibilities in the Marvel multi-universe, we give you the one person who could play Victor Von Doom.
Robert Downey Jr. Watch. It's already dead.
New mask. Same task. What did I tell you? I like playing complicated characters.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel just did the thing at their Comic-Con panel this year, 2024. They just announced that Avengers 5 is now titled Doomsday, and Robert Downey Jr. will be returning as Doctor Doom from another universe. So we'll break it all down. Secret Wars is still happening. Avengers 6. The Russo brothers are directing both movies now, both Avengers movies. This confirms a lot of long-running fan theories, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. There were a bunch of trailers that they also aired at the Marvel Comic-Con panel. I'll do separate videos for those too, for like Captain America Brave New World, the Thunderbolts trailer they revealed, the Fantastic Four trailer. There was so much stuff. It's going to take a couple days to get through it all. But the real big thing is the return of Robert Downey Jr. I've been talking about him coming back for like the last couple years, ever since Endgame really. Like, we all knew that he would come back eventually. It was just a question of how they would bring him back. Kevin Feige said a long time ago that they never planned to undo his Iron Man sacrifice, the main 616 version of Iron Man, Tony Stark, which makes sense. I think we all assume that, like, oh, they'll just bring him back as a variant from another universe, as another version of the character, or another type of character. And the funny thing about him playing a version of Doctor Doom, that's actually a relatively recent rumor, people thinking he's coming back as Doctor Doom. But way back in the day, you might remember this if you followed Marvel movies going back to like the early 2000s, before the original Fantastic Four movies at Fox came out. Like, we just got, big spoiler warning, because you might not have seen Deadpool and Wolverine. So spoiler warning for that movie and the cameos. But in that movie, we got a Chris Evans Human Torch cameo scene. He came back as a variant of his character from those original Fantastic Four movies. A while ago, Jon Favreau and Kevin Feige were talking about the legacy of the original Iron Man movie and how much of a slam dunk it was that they cast Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, how he was born to play that character. But long before they cast him to play Iron Man, he actually came in to audition at Marvel for the original Fantastic Four movie, the Chris Evans Fantastic Four movies, as that version of Doctor Doom, and failed the audition. Like, they didn't want him as Doctor Doom then.
Should we talk about that? Because I think that's probably one of the greatest decisions in the history of Hollywood.
Robert had come in for a general on it. And I remember you had all met with him already for like Doctor Doom or something on another project. I think I think he had come through on a maybe Fantastic Four.
Right. Everybody has good days and bad days. And I remember on later movies, we'll talk about on 15th anniversary of those, there were dark days, and I would say to Robert, we wouldn't be in this mess if it wasn't for you. Meaning, we wouldn't have a studio if it wasn't for him.
That's true.
Or you. Tell me your memories of where that idea came from, because there were some other people.
So everybody sort of knew who he was, and I remember sitting down with the guy, and I was like, geez, he just got it in it. He's got that spark in him and his eye, and he's ready. And that's when we were in your office, and we were pointing to his headshot and saying, we got to try to figure this out.
Personally, I think they made the right call. Like, I think he was born to play Iron Man. I'm glad that he did not play Doctor Doom in those original Fantastic Four movies. If that had happened, he probably would not have become Iron Man. I think part of the reason why they're bringing him back as this version of Doctor Doom is because of the way Doctor Doom is a man of science and a man of magic in the comics. He's a very good foil for Iron Man type of characters, like technology-based characters, but also Doctor Strange magic-based characters. There was also a deleted scene from Avengers Infinity War where he briefly became the Sorcerer Supreme, and Doctor Strange briefly became what they call the Iron Mage, getting his Iron Man armor nanites. So they were already bumping up against the idea of doing a magic-based version of Tony Stark. There's also a version of Sorcerer Supreme, Tony Stark, in the comics too. So all the pieces are there, and it's just an opportunity for him to play a very different type of character, but also be an overarching villain. You go from being like the hero, the anchor being, so to speak, to make a Deadpool and Wolverine reference of the main 616 universe, to being the ultimate villain. Doesn't it make sense now why they've held off on doing Doctor Doom in the MCU for so long? Like, there have been so many deleted scenes, so many times that they almost did him. He was almost going to be in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Early on last year, when Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania underperformed at the box office, there was talk of turning Avengers 5 into something completely different and pivoting away from the Kang dynasty of it all, the Council of Kangs. I think Marvel assumed the general audiences just weren't as down for Kang as they expected the hardcore fans to be down for Kang. So at their story retreat later that year, they talked about pivoting to an overarching villain for the next Avengers movie being Doctor Doom. Because we have God Emperor Doom in Secret Wars from the comics, there was also the Doctor Doom teaser during Deadpool and Wolverine in all the trailers and in the movie. During the movie, when they first land on Battleworld, you see the Secret Wars comic book number 5 with Doctor Doom's face on the cover. So part of the idea is we thought that they were teasing that Doctor Doom would show up in some way. They didn't feature any Doctor Doom footage during the Fantastic Four teaser, and they're meant to take place in an alternate universe. Supposedly, a version of Doctor Doom is going to show up somewhere in that movie. What they could do, early theory, is they could introduce this Robert Downey version of Doctor Doom as that Doctor Doom, and then bring him to the MCU with that team eventually. Just as a way to make sense how Robert Downey Jr. comes back to the MCU, like he escapes the destruction of that universe with the Fantastic Four, because they're meant to be the main team of Fantastic Four in the MCU going forward after this. So they have to come to the MCU at some point. Why not Robert Downey Jr. be their version of Doctor Doom in that universe, and he come with them to the MCU? They didn't really get into the plot details, but obviously this is like a total plot change from what Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty was originally going to be. Like they've completely wiped the slate clean, completely new idea, completely new villain. We're supposed to get a teaser for the new Avengers team during Captain America 4 Brave New World, but I think we won't see the team actually fully come together until the beginning of Avengers 5. During Deadpool and Wolverine, he clowns on the multiverse saga big time, like he rips it hard, saying that everybody's getting tired of it, kind of breaking the fourth wall, saying that everything has been lackluster since Avengers Endgame. Can we just move past the multiverse of it all? I think this was Marvel behind the scenes, tipping their hand to them turning Avengers 5 into less of a multiverse movie, maybe like a little bit of multiverse stuff to pay off that Kang storyline, but to make it more of a grounded, Earth-based, single universe kind of movie. What they can actually do now, this actually lends credence to the idea that God Emperor Doom, Robert Downey Jr. now, will be the main villain of Avengers 6 Secret Wars as well. He comes in as a regular villain, Doctor Doom, during Avengers 5, but then becomes so much more powerful by the end of that movie and becomes God Emperor Doom into Secret Wars. The other big side of that coin, too, is the Marvel bringing the Russos back to direct both Avengers 5 and Avengers 6. They were released back-to-back 2026 and 2027, just like Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame.
I mean, this is potentially one of the more entertaining characters in all of fiction. If we're going to do this, if we're going to bring him to movie theaters worldwide, then I think we're going to need the greatest actor in the world to play that character. Wow. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as proof of the unimaginable possibilities in the Marvel multi-universe,
I think this is just meant to build on the momentum and the safe bets that Marvel is going with after Deadpool and Wolverine crushed it at the box office. It was on track for like $450 million earlier this weekend, just for opening weekend. So it is a little early to say that Marvel is like 100% back, like they still got to stick the landing with Captain America Brave New World, with the Thunderbolts movie. There was also a trailer for that at Comic-Con. I'll do a separate video for it. But it sounds like they're swinging with the biggest possible hits that they think they can pulling in all the biggest elements possible for Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 to get asses in theaters. The Return of the King, Robert Downey Jr., is one way to do that. I am sure once they start the press tour and he starts talking about coming back as the character, he will talk about auditioning for Doctor Doom back in the early 2000s for that original Fantastic Four movie and how he totally flubbed that audition. Are we not super happy that that wound up happening? Because now they can actually pay it off in a much better way. Like he's a much more accomplished actor now, and we got to see his Iron Man full circle. There've been a couple deleted scenes and Easter eggs for Doctor Doom in the newer Marvel movies though. Probably the biggest one was during Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness because the director Sam Raimi, the writer, specifically talked about the Doctor Doom character when they were writing parts of the movie.
The detail of the teleportation device he uses to get into the scene is something we took from the comics. That's Doctor Doom's time door.
What they're talking about is actually right out of the comics. The whole idea is that Kang basically finds Dr. Doom's museum in an old Doombot and takes his technology to create his first time travel device, taking it back in time to ancient Egypt to become the Rama-Tut version of Kang, which we saw recently during Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania. That's meant to be him at the beginning of his timeline. Eventually, the Fantastic Four found out what he was doing because it was happening in a Fantastic Four comic book, one of the earliest ones. They go back, stop him, and he escapes to the future to become Kang the Conqueror, like he changes his name to Kang, then keeps coming back to fight the Avengers through different parts of the timeline.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before? They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor.
So in the 838 universe, there is a version of Dr. Doom that's active in this universe. They just didn't cast an actor to play him in the movie. One of the Kangs in the background here during Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania post-credit scene is also the Dr. Doom version of Kang. So there are actually two different versions of Dr. Doom Kang. One is Dr. Doom becoming a version of Kang, and the other is Kang pretending to be Dr. Doom. This is just meant to be a version of Kang in an alternate universe that's pretending to be Dr. Doom, which is why his armor looks like Dr. Doom's armor. The version of Dr. Doom that becomes a version of Kang is called Doom the Annihilating Conqueror. That's more like Doom taking the powers of Kang. During Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which takes place in the MCU, a big plot point is the other nations of the world searching for vibranium. At the beginning of the movie, originally, Lake Bell's character was supposed to be a version of Lucia von Barda, who's one of Dr. Doom's underlings from Latveria. And she was going to secretly be working for him to find that underwater vibranium. So Dr. Doom is looking for vibranium in the MCU. Also, during the Moon Knight series, when he winds up in that foreign country, in the background, there is a castle that looks just like the castles of Latveria. And the writers also specifically said that was meant to be an Easter egg, like, yeah, he's probably in a version of Latveria when he's waking up here. Right now, my early theory for Avengers 5 Doomsday, like him being the big villain of Avengers 5, is that he comes to the MCU, he might be the version from the Fantastic Four movie from their universe that comes over. Because of all the vibranium and all the stuff that's happening in the MCU right now through Captain America: Brave New World, like all the really important stuff that's happening, he tries to steal all that. They do their version of Doom War from the Black Panther comics, but just adapt it into probably Avengers 5. Tries to steal all the vibranium from Wakanda, and uses a lot of his Doom bots from the comics to do it, which are a big part of Doom War too. Like he upgrades his Doom bots with vibranium. The new Avengers face him, but he winds up winning, and things push into Avengers 6 Secret Wars in a more closer version to the comics, or at least an adaptation of the original 1980s in the more modern 2010s version of Secret Wars. My assumption is that they will pay off some of the Kang storyline too, so there'll be like a little bit of multiverse, and I don't expect to see Deadpool or Wolverine in Avengers 5. It's possible, but I think they'll save them for Secret Wars, just because technically they went back to their original main X-Men universe at the end of Deadpool and Wolverine. Everybody just post all your theories about how this is going to work, like what are they going to do with Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom in Avengers 5, and how are they going to carry him over to Avengers 6 Secret Wars as God Emperor Doom, or a version of a bigger villain. It just seems like all the pieces are there, so I'll do more videos when they announce more details about the movie, but they won't start filming Avengers 5 till early next year. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel to get all those other Marvel Comic-Con trailers that I'll do videos for the next couple of days. I just did my full breakdown and Easter eggs for the entire Deadpool and Wolverine movie. It's a massive video, like that's how many Easter eggs and references there are. Click here for that, and click here for my Deadpool and Wolverine post-credit scene video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.